welcome back to another powerful episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I'm your host, Avik, and today we are diving into a theme that most people instinctively try to avoid. Very common word, it's discomfort. Yeah. But what if discomfort isn't the enemy? What if it's actually the bridge to growth, confidence, and a life that you are proud of, right? So, dear listeners, my guest today knows all about that. And he is a high performance coach, motivational speaker, and the author of the soon to be released book, which is Uncomfortable Either Way. So, please welcome Brett Eaton. So, welcome to the show, Brett.
No, Vic, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here, and thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Amazing, amazing. So, dear listeners, Brett is someone who has built his life around proving that when you seek challenge instead of comfort, you don't just survive, you thrive. So we'll discuss in details in our discussion today. So I'll not take much of your time. Brett, it's such a pleasure to have you here. Welcome to the show again.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is a topic I'm very passionate about. Obviously, putting a book out, but it's been a 2-year journey with the book. But this is something really I've lived kind of my entire life.
Amazing. Wow. So Brett, like your book, Uncomfortable Either Way, I would say that's a bold statement. I mean, if you can break down like what do you mean by that and why embracing discomfort is it's such a powerful life philosophy.
Yeah, the title is something that I've been sitting on for a while. And funny enough, when we were writing this book, when I presented the title and was conviction of, hey, this is what I want it to be, the publishing company I was using didn't love it at first. They were like, we don't know, let's try to come up with something different. They actually tried to talk me out of it. So but I just felt like it was the message that was on my heart. And it all actually kind of started for me. There's been multiple times in my life where I've faced adversity, and I have always found that adversity will either knock somebody down and keep them there, or knock somebody down and they'll get back up a stronger version of themselves due to the resilience, due to the confidence, due to the skill, the mindset that they have to overcome in order to get back up and keep moving. And it always came back to this idea of I have always felt and clients that I work with and everybody talks about change being really hard, and it's hard to change, it's hard to grow, it's hard to become a new person, it's hard to start doing things differently or to realize that there's this potential in you that you want to go pursue. And I finally realized all of these changes that I want to make, and I've been convincing myself they're going to be so uncomfortable to change my habits, to change maybe my friend circle, to change what I'm listening to, how I'm spending my mornings, my nights. All that is going to be uncomfortable. But I finally had the realization of I'm already uncomfortable now. I'm uncomfortable knowing that there's this change that I want to make, knowing that there's this potential inside of me that I'm not even close to tapping into, and knowing that I'm kind of unhappy living the life that I'm currently living because I feel like I'm capable of so much more. When I finally realized that that was also uncomfortable, I now had the choice. It's going to be uncomfortable either way. Which one do we want to choose?
Hmm. Understood. Definitely, that's a very, very true one thing. Yeah. Like, so do you think that people underestimate like how much comfort itself can actually create a different kind of discomfort, like regret, stagnation, or like a lack of fulfillment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think when we avoid discomfort. And for a lot of people listening, I want to be very clear because people sometimes will hear this phrase or they'll hear this title and they may think, well, does Brett want me to live uncomfortable 24/7, 365? And the answer is no. I don't want anybody to be so uncomfortable all the time. But I do believe that we need to pick and choose moments where we deliberately seek out uncomfortable situations and we seek out discomfort, because that is really the only place where we get to learn about ourselves, and we get to grow, and we get to learn new skills, we get to become a different person, we get challenged. And that doesn't mean that we always overcome the challenge. Sometimes the challenge beats us down, sometimes we fail, sometimes we make mistakes, but that is really where we learn who we are, and we learn that that is where the life experience really is in the trial and error. It's in the trials and tribulations. It's in the, like, the experience of going after something. That is really where the full life experience is, where we get emotions, we get feelings, we get all of the good things in life. So, but we don't get that if we just stay comfortable all the time. And for a lot of people, they think comfortable is avoiding the uncomfortable either way. And I'm telling you, it's not. You're not going to avoid it. You're just going to choose a different version of it. And it's exactly what you said in that question. It comes back as regret. It comes back as, man, I wish I would have. It comes back in, watching life pass you by and looking back saying, man, I wish I would have done that 5 years ago. I wish I would have done that 10 years ago. I can't believe I wasted so much time thinking that this change was going to be uncomfortable. And then realizing now, I'm regretting the fact that I never went after it.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, and like I mean, you often drawn parallels between the fitness and life. So, in what ways do the lessons from fitness, like discipline, consistency, and pushing past limits, mirror the challenges that we face in our personal and the professional lives?
Yeah, to start off, my first career was in fitness. I spent the first 8 years of my life working everything under the sun when it comes to fitness, and I always loved it because, for one, there's so many parallels. I could probably make a ton, but the first life lesson I would say that I learned from fitness was, whatever you put into health and fitness, you get out of it. Nobody gets to dictate. I can't do go into the gym this morning and do my workout and then walk out, and somebody in the street gets to decide, you know what, Brett, we're only going to give you 30% of that workout. You know what, Brett, we think that you're only worth 50% of the effort that you gave there. It doesn't work that way. Whatever you put in, you get out. So I have always gravitated towards that because I feel like it's the one place life is actually fair. You go in, you do what you want, however much you want to do. You're as disciplined as you want to be. You work as hard as you want to work, and you get the return on your investment in that area. So that's the first place. The second place is where I feel like uncomfortable can be explained a little bit. It doesn't mean that you have to live your life doing burpees all the time. You don't have to wake up and till sundown do burpees. But I do believe that the people who push themselves, they get the most out of it, and they get the biggest return. And if you go into any gym setting or on a run or anything, and you find the person who maybe is in the best shape, or who is pushing themselves hard, or is training for something specific, and you realize that there's a level of discipline that comes when you're training for something. There's a level of accountability. You follow a schedule, you follow a routine, and you usually don't perform at that high of a level if you don't make a lot of, let me just say, not every great decision, but you make a lot more good decisions than you do bad decisions. So I have just always loved the parallels between fitness and life, and I believe the uncomfortable way it sits in that area too, because it's uncomfortable to be on the treadmill until you're dripping sweat. It's uncomfortable to lift a heavy weight, that's pushing back on you. But it's also really uncomfortable to wake up and realize your jeans don't fit that well, or realize that you look in the mirror and, oh man, how did 10 pounds creep up on me that way? Or there's a story of a friend of mine who has two kids, went to sit in his backyard in a family barbecue, sat in a chair, and the chair broke. And my friend had talked to me about losing weight for a while, but that was the thing that said, he was embarrassed, and he said, I don't want this anymore. That was the straw. And that's uncomfortable also. So gym, workouts, eating healthy, making the right choice. A lot of people say, no, 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 I just want it right now because I want it.
Yeah,
Well, you're going to choose your uncomfortable one way or the other.
exactly. Very beautifully said. Yes, lovely. I really love that, and because it makes the idea accessible, and it's not just about lifting the weights only. It's all about lifting yourself into situations that stretch you. So,
Right.
yep, yep. So, in your coaching work with the high performers, what do you notice in the most common comfort trap, like people fall into, and if you can share that, yeah.
Yeah. So the first one is the all or nothing mentality. And the all or nothing mentality is something that I've been on both sides of the fence on for many years of my life. I was like all or nothing. I'm an all or nothing guy, and I thought it was a compliment, and I thought it was this badge of honor saying, "Hey, I'm an all or nothing." But what I started to realize, especially in fitness, and that taught me how to work with high performers in business as well, is that when people say that, they feel good about that statement. But what it also tells me is when somebody tells me they're an all in person, is that I have to be weary that they're going to be all out at some point as well. And usually people are all in the beginning. They're all in when it's fun, when it's exciting, when the honeymoon phase is still around. They're also all in when they're motivated. They're all in when they're excited about something or they can see the tangible results. But what happens when it gets hard? And that is really where the all in, all out becomes a problem because for a lot of people, and there's a chapter of the book all about this button that we hit, and it's when we go to give up. It's like, oh, I can't be perfect anymore. Oh, I'm not that motivated. So I messed up a day or two, or I messed up a week, and
Mm.
all of a sudden they slam the button, and it's like, nope, I give up. I'm completely all out now. So that's where the all in, all out becomes a problem. So for a lot of high performers, it can be a strength, the all in, all out mindset or the mentality of being an all in person. But what I want to make sure is that that strength doesn't become a weakness by bailing when it gets hard, by bailing when it gets uncomfortable, or by bailing when we maybe slip up a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also, like, uh, is there a particular strategy or the mindset shift that you find consistently helps people flip that discomfort into the growth?
It's knowing what you well, it's 2 things. One, you gotta get clear on what you want out of life. A lot of people are saying, I'm not growing," or, "I'm not making as much progress," and I ask them what they want, and they're not really clear on that. And it's really difficult to make progress or build momentum towards something we don't know where we're going. It would be like me getting in my car and trying to drive really fast to my destination, but I don't know where that destination is. Doesn't matter how fast or slow I go, it's not taking me in the right direction. The second part of that would be you have to have a real honest, I would say brutally honest conversation with yourself of where you've been letting things slide. And it's one of those things where as a coach and even the coaches that I've worked with, it is so much easier for them to call me out on the places that maybe there are gaps or there's place where I'm letting myself off the hook than it is for me to see that. Because in my mind, every excuse I've ever made in my life made perfect sense. But for somebody else, they might say, "Well, Brett, you said you wanted this." And again, when I was writing the book, they're like, "Brett, you said you wanted to write this book, but you missed your editing deadline." Or, "Brett, you wanted to, write this book, but you've been stuck on chapter 16." Like those are the kind of things where you need somebody else's point of view sometimes to be able to see that. But that is where for everybody, you got to get clear on what you want, and then you just have to be honest with yourself of saying you have if you won't admit or you are unable to see that it's going to be uncomfortable either way, you're never going to make that change because you're going to convince yourself that, hey, this is the good. I'm just going to keep bailing. I'm just going to keep waiting. I'll wait for the perfect time. But if you can actually look in the mirror and say, he's right. I've never looked at it that way, but I'm uncomfortable now knowing that there's this thing inside of me I keep talking about and not doing anything about. Then all of a sudden, you get the view of, okay, I get what he's saying. It's going to be uncomfortable either way. Now you actually have a choice. But until you even have that brutally honest conversation with yourself, you're never going to have a reason to choose anything other than comfort because life is set up to be very comfortable.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. That's really gold because it's not just about pushing harder, it's also about shifting how we see the discomfort in front of us. Yeah. And like you have climbed mountains, literally and figuratively. So, like from Mountain Washington to the 29029 Everest Challenge.
Mm.
What's the one lesson that you have? I mean, from those extreme challenges that you have, you believe that applies to anyone who is listening, like no matter where they are in life.
That's a great question, and I would say there's two things that are mountain-esque, and yes, I've rock climbed, Mount Washington, and then I climbed the equivalent of Mount Everest in an event called 29029, where you're not actually in Everest, but you hike the elevation equivalent
Yeah.
of that mountain, and for starters, you really only have control over the couple steps in front of you. And it's so easy to look up at the top and man, be like, man, that's so far. Like, is that realistic? Are we actually going to be able to get up? And especially rock climbing, where you're not moving very fast. You look up there, and it could so easily psych you out. So the people that thrive in those type of situations, or the people that thrive when they're working on a big project or maybe a big goal, is that they're able to not let the end of the destination or looking at the top and how much is left psych them out. Instead, they just keep their vision on the couple steps in front of them. And to for the last 2 years, the mountain in my career was this book, and it was so easy to be writing and writing and writing and being like, man, we don't even have a full manuscript yet, like this could take forever. But if I focus on how long it's going to take, well, then I miss out on writing a really good chapter that's in front of me. So it's focusing on those couple steps that are right in front of you. The other part of it is why I'm such an advocate for pushing people to enjoy the journey. And because the top of the actual mountain, for when we climbed Mount Washington, for instance, it took us, I don't know, 5 hours to get from the bottom to the top. And the climb took 5 hours, and we were at the top for maybe 25 minutes and turned around and went back home and got in the car and drove away. Like it we think that the destination or the top of the mountain is going to be this long-lasting, epic celebration. Trust me, we celebrated. I hope people celebrate climbing to the top of any mountain in their life. But you realize there's so much more time
Yeah.
during the climb. There's so much more time in the bottom, in the middle, in the third of the mountain, where I have a saying that if you don't enjoy the climb, you're going to hate yourself when you get to the top. And you have to enjoy the moments of the climb. And when you actually look back on it, when I see that book, everybody sees a book that they're going to open up and start reading. But I look at that book and I see 2 years, not even 2 years, probably 2+ years of ideas and writing and editing and cutting out. And I see all of the work that went into it. I don't just see the book now that it's done and it's in my hand. Don't get me wrong, I love holding it, I love looking at it, but what I see 2 years of hard work, and that's really what makes me proud.
That's amazing. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Lovely. Brett, I mean, such a great conversation. This is really, really an eye opening. And I'd say you have reminded us that growth is not found in the cozy corners of life, but it's exactly, it's found when we intentionally lean into this challenge. So, definitely, definitely. So, for everyone who is listening, remember that you are going to be uncomfortable either way. So, the only question is like, will your discomfort move you forward or hold you back? So, that's a very, I mean, it's a very simple and the value driven question. So Brett's book "Uncomfortable Either Way" is coming out, and I really, really highly recommend you grab a copy when and until then, take one bold step today to that stretches you and watch like how that choice shapes your tomorrow. So Brett, if someone wants to connect with you, what will be the great medium?
Yeah, thank you so much, Avik, for having me. First of all, I appreciate it, and I feel so strongly about this message that it's anywhere I can get to share and try to help somebody lean into that uncomfortable either way in their own life, no matter what phase of life they're in or what decision it is. I know that it will lead to something really good if they can choose the path of growth. I hang out on Instagram a lot. My Instagram handle is my name, Brett Eaton, BretteEaton _ my website is bretteaton.com, and the book Uncomfortable Either Way is now available for pre-order. It'll be out in a couple weeks. It'll arrive in a couple weeks. But we have the regular version, we have the Kindle version, we have, both the hardcover and the audiobook version, all available on September 9th. So I would appreciate anybody picking up a copy. If you enjoyed this message, send me a message, let me know what you thought of it, and I'd love to connect.
Amazing. Lovely. Great. So, dear listeners, what I'll do, I'll put all the links into the show notes for easy reference. And with this hope, this a week, and you have been listening to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. Stay courageous, stay curious, and as always, keep growing. Thank you so much.